Grayson Haydn-Myer is a 17-year-old auctioneer and rancher from Northern California. In addition to having a growing business, being a high school student, her and her family also run a cow-calf and yearling operation. Please help me welcome Grayson to the Ag Chicks podcast. Hey y'all, this is Allie Spears, your host of the Ag Chicks podcast, where I cultivate connections with the women who are helping feed the world. All right, Grayson, I am so excited to sit down with you today. You are for sure my youngest guest, so I can't wait to jump into that and kind of all of the amazing things that you're doing and all of the success that you've had with still being in high school. So very excited to talk about all of those things with you today. But to get things started, would you mind kind of telling us where you're from, and kind of where you're at right now in life and all of those things?
Yeah, so right now I'm a senior in high school. I'm from Oakdale, California. I'm 17 years old, and we live in Oakdale, but we ranch throughout multiple counties in California. So we kind of go all over when it comes to our cow calf and yearling operation.
Okay, awesome. Oakdale, that is not too terribly far from where I grew up. We spent a lot of time in Oakdale. I am originally from Brentwood, California. I don't know if you know where that's at, but we had property that we rented in Oakdale. My grandparents lived in Escalon in Oakdale for a long time, so very familiar with that area. It's a great ag area for sure. So do you, sorry, say that one more time?
It's the cowboy capital of the world. It's great.
Yes, no, such a fun place to be, so deeply rooted in agriculture. So that being said, so agriculture in California, in Oakdale, you said you live on, or your family operates a cow-calf operation. And do you guys have a specific breed that you focus on?
No, we don't, because we get a lot of sale yard cattle, and what we do is on our cow calf operation is a lot of them are just sale yard cattle that we get in, and then we keep them, and then we raise their calves, and it's kind of just a cycle of them. We don't keep heifers here. What we do is we just get cattle in strictly from the sale yard, and then same with our yearlings. Our yearlings, a lot of them are held over from our calves that come out of our cows, of course, but a lot of them we get throughout the sale yard.
Awesome. Okay. So you guys have more of a commercial side cow-calf operation, sounds like.
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Okay, awesome. Okay, super fascinating. And then along those lines too, obviously you're in high school. I'm assuming this is just again an assumption. Are you involved in 4-H or FFA or anything like that?
So I am in FFA classes throughout my freshman and junior year. I took all of the welding classes that our high school offers. I was the only girl in those welding classes, and I loved it. I learned so much, and I'm so thankful to have the skill to be able to stick weld and those kinds of things. Now, I don't show anything within FFA because I don't have the time for it, because our ranch side of things and my auctioneering business keeps me so busy. But I do a lot with the FFA students. I actually auctioneer at 4 different county fairs around here: Alameda, Mariposa, Madera, and Stanislaus. So I work a lot with them there. But no, I don't show any animals in FFA, but I am an FFA member.
Awesome. And that sounds like that probably keeps you way busy, obviously. So I understand that aspect for sure. But since you just brought up auctioneering, I want to get into that. So tell us a little bit about, let's start from the beginning in terms of like what got you interested in auctioneering?
Well, it all started when I was 9 years old, because what we had to do was in my 5th grade class, we had class jobs, right? So every month we'd have to pay rent on our desks, and we had to earn that monopoly money through our class job. So you could turn on the light switch, you could be a class messenger, you could open the door, be a librarian. But every Friday, you could take your monopoly money and you could spend it on things like candy or board games or just random things a 5th grader would like. So I came home and I said, Dad, I either want to be the class messenger, because that means that you get to go to other classes and you get to talk to other teachers, or I kind of want to be the class auctioneer. And the reason I said class auctioneer was because since we are cattle ranchers, I'd always gone to the sale yard to either buy cattle or watch cattle sell. So I already knew what an auctioneer was. So Dad goes, well, Grayson, I know a local auctioneer who could give you a couple lessons just so you're good enough for your class. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. So I applied to be the class auctioneer. I got to be the class auctioneer, and I started going every Wednesday to our local sale yard farmers with Travis Johnson, and he started teaching me how to auctioneer a little bit. And I ended up really liking it. And by the time I was 12, I was actually getting pretty serious about auctioneering. And I decided that I wanted to start doing fundraisers and do different things. So dad knew of somebody who does a world champion livestock auctioneering. Those, excuse me, let me rephrase that. They are world champion livestock auctioneers who put on a seminar,
Okay.
and twice a year, and they're in Turlock, and that's Max Oliveira at Turlock Livestock Auction Yard, Ralph Wade, and Johnny Rogers. They're all world champions. So I started attending that school when I was about 12. And that's when things got super serious for me. And I decided that I wanted to make it a career of mine. So at 12 years old and even 9, I had my career laid out for me. And at 17, we'll get into that later, but I do a lot of auctioneering, and I've decided that that's the path for me, that and cattle ranching.
That is so cool. And also the fact that at 9 years old you had an interest and like fully leaned into it and went for it is so cool. I know I work with college students on a daily basis. Half the time, even myself, I don't know what I want to do. So the fact that you knew what you wanted to do and you stuck to it is incredible and an inspiration to everyone, honestly. That is fantastic. And I can relate in the fact that my great grandfather was actually an auctioneer in the same areas that you're talking about in terms of that whole area of California. So I have been out of California for a while, but I know obviously the areas and some of the people that you're talking about. And like you said, those are some of the best in the business. So that is incredible to be able to kind of learn from them at a young age and really get that experience.
And it's also so humbling, I think is the word, to have my own career and have my own thing that I get to work towards. Because I'm fortunate enough to come from a cow calf operation and just the ranching side of things to the yearling side of it. So I have been able to be grown. Let me rephrase that. I've had the opportunity to grow up with it, and I've had it for my entire life. Whereas auctioneering, nobody in my family is an auctioneer. That was just something that I kind of on a whim decided that I loved. And then once I started doing it with cattle and that kind of thing, I decided that I really love it and I really enjoy it, and it became my own passion. So I'm so thankful and fortunate to have something that I got to work towards, not solely on my own, because that would totally be a lie. My parents have helped me so much with it, but it was something on my own that I decided I wanted to do.
Absolutely, and the fact that you were able to do it and be pretty stinking good at it from what I understand. So along those lines, so I know you mentioned that you kind of did those seminars and the classes, and so for auctioneering, you have to complete the school, correct? Or is that something that I've just heard and is completely wrong? Or you have to complete like a certification?
That's not necessarily
Okay.
true. It's about how if you wanted to take an opportunity to develop your skills, it's the same thing as a roping clinic. You don't have to go to a roping clinic to learn how to rope. But if you wanted to become a better roper, you could go to a clinic. And every time you go to that clinic, you always have stuff to work on. I always like to use roping as an example, or even like golf or any sort of athletic type thing, because it's the same thing where you can constantly get better and improve yourself. So the auctioneering seminar was a great opportunity that I've been to multiple times since now as 17, because every time they can find something that, hey, we don't like the way that you do this, this would sound better, and you'd be a lot better marketer if you started doing those kinds of things.
Okay, absolutely. That makes sense. That's a really good analogy, I think, too. And then in terms of learning how to be an auctioneer, I'm assuming it's a lot more than just talking fast, right? So what are the things that go into learning that entire process, or the things you have to maybe keep up on too? I mean, with the changing cattle markets and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, so I auctioneer a lot of fundraisers. I do about 40 fundraisers a year, and then I also auctioneer at sale yards. Sometimes on Wednesdays, I have the opportunity to go to a cattleman's livestock market in Galt. And then every Friday, I sell cattle at Turlock Livestock Auction Yard, which is typically slaughter Holstein cows, jerseys, that kind of thing. So it's a constant changing market because of going to an auctioneer, you have to one, it's constant practice, which I feel like a lot of people don't know that or don't think it, but you're constantly practicing because you can't get up there and work on something and be like, I don't like the way that that sounds. I need to change that because you're going at such a quick, rapid pace, more so in the cattle world. And you're trying to get an animal in, you're trying to assess how much that animal is worth, what those buyers are going to give you for it, because you don't want to start an animal at $40 a hundred and then you're going to 80. That's a long stretch. You're out of breath, you're tired. So you have a lot going on. So you need to practice at home. That way, when you get into those situations, you're good to go. Another thing though, on the fundraiser side of it, is you're constantly assessing the crowd and the room. Because at one event, a trip to I apologize, I got another phone call. Anyways, at one event for a fundraiser, you might be getting $10,000 for a trip to New Mexico or Arizona or whatever it might be, and another event you might be only getting 1,000, or especially Las Vegas. Some events that might be worth 3, 4,000. Some other events that might only be worth $750. A lot of it is just constantly having to read and assess the crowd. So there's a lot to keep up on it, and I'm constantly learning new things. But there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, I feel like just learning to read a room is such a challenge, and to be able to do it at a fast pace, right? And it can change no matter, like, you may start really strong and maybe you lose them halfway or whatever the situation is. So I feel like that ability is invaluable.
And like you're saying too, when it comes to the cattle world, certain type of cows might be worth a certain amount of money, right? And then 10 minutes later, they're $10 a hundred less. You just never know what's going on or how fast it's moving. Like you might head out, you might go eat lunch, you come back, and those cows are worth significantly more or less. It's just a constant, fast, rapid changing pace, which I really enjoy. I love that nothing's ever the same. And I enjoy the change. I don't like doing the same thing every day. So yes, I'm doing the same thing, but it's so different on the inside of it.
Yeah, and having that ability to kind of change from day to day, minute to minute, like you just said, and be able to evolve with whatever situation you might be in is, like I said, such an invaluable trait for not only the role that you're in, but life as well, right? Because nothing stays the same in life. So you're gonna be ready to go in terms of all of that kind of stuff too, whatever life throws your way. So that I don't know, it amazes me that you have that ability at such a young age and to be able to do that. Because like I said, I mean, most adults can't do that. So I give you major kudos on that for sure.
Well, thank you very much. I think sometimes I take it for granted, but I'm very lucky.
So, in terms of all of the different types of auctions that you just mentioned and all the different things that you've done, do you have a favorite, like, auction that you've ever done, or, like, what's your favorite thing to sell?
Well, I don't necessarily have a favorite thing to sell. I really don't have an answer for you on that because I love the cattle side of things just because it hits home. That's what I was raised with and that's what I grew up doing. But I also love the fundraiser side with the energy and the enthusiasm that the crowd gives because they're there to have a fun time. And when you can really connect with a crowd and get that enthusiasm up and they're just having the blast of a great time with you, that is one of my favorite things ever. So it's hard for me to have a certain one that I'm like, yes, I love it the most because I don't. I just love the different aspects of every single one.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense, and I will accept that as your answer because I think that's a very valid answer, because it's very evident that you're in love with the whole process. That being said, I know that you have a very special title as well, in terms of kind of your experiences. So can you tell us a little bit about what that entailed in terms of it's the high school auctioneer competition that you were involved in, correct?
Well, it's not necessarily high school
Okay.
only, but it's the here, now I gotta think on it. Okay, so I went sorry, hopefully you can edit some of this.
You're good. You're totally good.
Anyway, so it was about 2 years ago, I believe, and it was July 4th. And I flew out to Kansas City, Missouri to compete in my first auctioneering competition. And there, I got there. I was pretty nervous. That's the farthest I've ever flown. The farthest I'd ever been before was probably Arizona. So when we got there, I was pretty nervous. Everything was a lot different, especially the people. And I competed in it. So they kind of told you what you were selling, and it was all not real. It was just a mock auction for what we were doing. And what we sold was a bull, a cow, and a pack of embryos. So I got up there and I did my thing and I just gave it my all, and it ended up that I won it. And they said that if there was an overall competition, because it was broken down in ages, but if there was an overall competition, I probably would have won that one as well. And it was such a neat experience, and it made me the National Angus Auctioneer of 2022 or three, I believe. I think it was 22, but there was such a neat opportunity, and I made so many great connections out there that I still talk to quite regularly. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity that my mom was able to take me out there, and it was a great deal, and I'm proud to have won it.
Yes, congratulations. And I think that's kind of how I kind of first got wind of you actually was I think my dad actually sent me a video and he was like, "You have to have this girl on Act Chicks." And I was like, "Absolutely." And I'm so glad that it finally lined out that we could get you on. Because like I said, and like I'm gonna continue to say, your skill is obviously there, right? And you're fantastic at your trade and for your age, it's astounding, but then also just in the world of auctioneering, the fact that you're able to do that is incredible as well because like we've mentioned and like I'm gonna continue to mention, this is not an easy skill, and if you are not familiar with what an auctioneer is or, what an auctioneer does, you guys need to go check that out because once you see that and then once you listen to Grayson's story, you're gonna be like, "Holy cow." Um, Not to have a cow, reference in there, but I think it fits.
Which I think a lot of people do just think that auctioneering is just talking fast. And that's really not the truth at all, because it's just about being smooth, being clear, and then continuing on with what you're doing. Because we are marketers, we are marketing the item that we are selling. We, especially in the cattle world, keep in mind these people a lot of times are bringing their calves that this is the one time a year that that person will get paid. That one time a year check is what's going to pay for their cattle's vaccines, their hay, their everything, their rent possibly too. It just depends on the person. And when that set of calves come into the ring, it is our job to make sure that they bring the most amount of money possible. It's what keeps the rancher in business, and especially if you can make it lucrative for them. It's so vital and important. So our job isn't just to talk fast. Our job is to market, especially when it comes to fundraisers. When we do things for great causes and great charities, that might be their one time a year that they have a fundraiser, they have a gala, they have that financial revenue coming in to support whatever great cause they're doing. So it's not just talking fast. It's so much more than that.
100%, and I think you just did a fantastic job of describing that. I know as someone who has been to a lot of auctions and who has sold a lot of things, the auctioneer can quite literally make or break the entire sale or process. So super important to have somebody up there on that block who knows what they're doing, who can engage the crowd, who has a little bit of humor that they can pull in, who is you can understand and really can kind of roll with the ebbs and flows of a sale.
Hmm. No, that's 100% true. Because another thing too is if somebody's bidding and they think that they're at $10,000, but it's actually $100,000, we have to be clear and be able to communicate, because we're not just sitting there talking fast, rambling on. We are communicating with the audience. We are telling them what number they have to come in at, how much they have to bid, if they're in or out. We are actually having a conversation with the audience. We are having a conversation with maybe 500 people at one time, one person, and we're doing our job, especially if we have good ringmen. That definitely helps by a lot. But our job is to sit up there and communicate with those maybe 25 people to 500 or plus. Or we're sitting there having a conversation.
By ranchers for ranchers. Together, let's make ranching easier. Previously known as Cattle Vac Fox, Strayhorn has rebranded to better match their ability to push the envelope in creating innovative animal management products to serve the ranching community. Strayhorn is rooted in tradition and ranching legacy, but they believe in the opportunity of looking at things with a new perspective to drive the industry forward. Check out all of the things that Strayhorn has to offer you and your herd. For sure. And like you mentioned, ring people, definitely a huge part of that as well. So being able to, like you said, not only have a connection with the audience, but connecting with them and keep track of where you're at in the money situation of like, what dollar amount are we on, and all of that is, it's a lot to manage. I do not envy you because I am terrible at math, and when I got too many things going on at once, I lose track. So hands down to you guys because you do a great job at what you're really great at, really talented at.
Yeah, I'm so fortunate to have such a great ring crew or spotters or whatever you'd like to call them because my dad goes with me to a lot of auctions and he will call bids for me and take bids for me, which I really appreciate. And we have quite a few other guys who are more than willing to come with me to any auction that I need. And they help me so much. Actually, it's quite funny. So, some of our branding crew, actually, just the guys that help us go rope and brand calves, ended up coming with me to some auctions. And people walked up to me and they were asking if they are professional ringmen. And I was like, no, they're our branding crew. And they were so impressed by them because they helped make the auction. Especially, this is more so on the fundraiser side of things, I'd say. But our job is to be entertaining, not like a comedian entertaining, but we have to keep the conversation, keep communicating, but we need to be interesting and entertaining. And it's so hard sometimes, depending how the room's set up, to make sure and be able to communicate efficiently and tell that person whether they're in or not. So when you have great ringmen, like I'm fortunate enough to have my dad and other people too, they help make the auction so much better, help it go smoother, and help make it a great time for the audience.
For sure, for sure. And along the lines of, ringmen and that whole process as well, and maybe you can speak to this in terms of as you have grown, not only as an auctioneer, but through your business as well. Is that something that you kind of provide as a part of your package of like, I'll bring my own ringmen, or does it kind of depend on what event you're doing?
I would say it depends on what event that I'm doing, but I'm personally a big fan of bringing my own crew because a lot of times when you get there, the people don't completely understand what being a ring man is. A lot of times they do, but sometimes they don't, and they might have a flag or something like this to wave back and forth. And you're not building the energy and excitement the same way. And also, sometimes it can be confusing to the audience and whether or not they know what's going on. So personally, I'm a big fan of bringing my own crew. I'm fortunate enough that my mom and dad go with me quite a bit and those other guys, but I really like to bring my own crew and provide it myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then that way too, you kind of know how they operate, they know how you operate, so that kind of takes some of the blurry lines out of it too.
100% because we can be all the way across the room and I'm watching them make hand gestures at me or telling me to hold on or something like that and I instantly know what it means. Well, one, I've grown up with my dad my entire life, so of course I'm going to know what he's telling me. But those other guys, I there's something about when you brand calves and you have a crew like that, you get in the same page because you have to be in sync. Otherwise, you can get somebody seriously hurt in a branding atmosphere. So when you take it to the auctioneering atmosphere, you guys are in sync, you're doing your jobs, you're doing your parts just like you are in a branding pen. So I think that helps going back and forth. And I really appreciate those guys. But yes, I can instantly understand what they're trying to tell me or communicate to me just by the hand gestures they're making or whatever they're saying. So that is by far super important because we're all on the same page.
Right. Yep. And like I think that's another great metaphor is it's like working cows, right? You gotta be on the same page, whether you're working cows or selling a trip to Vegas.
Yeah, no, it's true. Because especially when you're working cows, that's such a great way to get hurt if one person isn't paying attention and they get hit by the head gate or a calf kicks them and knocks them out or another person sticks a syringe in their foot. There's so many ways that you can get hurt in the cattle business and you have to be in the same page. You have to be in sync. So when you have that structure and you know that you are a team at the end of the day, that is able to transfer over, especially on my auctioneering side of things, that we have to work together to get them because my job is to get the most amount of money out of the room. I need to be able to get the last dollar. There's another person out there that wants to bid $50 more, even $25 more. My job is to get that. And when we all have the same common goal and the same thing in mind, we just flow and go in sync perfectly.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Just like other business ventures as well, right? So speaking of business, as again, kind of going back to as you've grown and as you've developed this business for yourself, which it truly has become, what has been that like from your standpoint of having it evolve? Like, what has there been certain processes or things that you've implemented for yourself to kind of grow not only in your craft as an auctioneer, but also a businesswoman?
Well, for me personally was at first I didn't charge to be an auctioneer because one, I'm like 13, 12 years old. So I didn't charge people then because I my thought was that I needed to get better, I needed to do good. And my big thing too is I'm not too sure if this will answer your question, but I think it's important to say is that a lot of times you might not be good enough to be paid yet. A lot of times, like people that want to get in the cattle industry, they are looking for a job. I get messages almost every single day asking if we have a job available on Instagram. And the thing is, we don't, if anybody wants to
Yeah.
know. But a lot of times when you're coming off maybe you grew up with your 20 cows or maybe 10 or 2 or whatever it is, you don't have the knowledge or the skill set that somebody else would have, and respectfully you might not be as much as a valuable employee yet. You need to get those skills. It's the same thing as why people need a diploma. You have to build those skills, learn those things to be able to get hired at another job. It comes to the same exact thing when it comes to auctioneering or cattle ranching. You have to go there, you have to build up the skills, you have to build the confidence, you have to be able to communicate, you have to learn the things to do, the steps, the rituals, whatever you're doing before you're good enough to get paid. So a good thing for me was when I was developing my skills was I didn't get paid for a while. And then officially I did a job in Walnut Creek actually, kind
Yep.
of your, and I did that job and I rocked it. I think I was about 14 or 15 or so, and I rocked that job. I got them a lot more money than they had ever raised before. And then that was the point where I was ready to start charging people and knew that I was good enough and I was going to supply them with a great auctioneer. So that was one thing that was pretty important for me because I started my business so young that, and of course, what 12-year-old is really going to live on their own in the United
Right.
States, really? So I still live at home. I'm
Right.
17 now, but I was fortunate enough to be so young that I could go for a while without the need of a paycheck because I didn't need to put food on the table. Or I didn't need to clothe myself at that age because I was 12, and
Right.
I'm enough to have such a great mom and dad that that wasn't the situation for me. But I think a really great thing for me was being able to get that experience and that exposure before I needed to start getting paid. And I think that was a good building step for me, and it's very humbling to think back on.
I think you could not have said that better, honestly, because I think that's such an important thing to remember, especially as the world that we currently live in has kind of evolved into this like gig atmosphere, right? Of, I'm going to post on social media and I'm going to expect to get paid for it and those types of things where a lot of times we forget those kind of building block,
Hmm.
foundational level things where we really need to be good at our craft or we really need to prove ourselves before we can expect people to pay us for what we believe we're worth, right? Which everybody's time and skills are valuable at some degree, but sometimes you have to kind of be in the trenches and prove that, hey, I am good and you should pay me because of this or you should pay me XYZ because of this. So I think that's a great reminder to anyone and everyone who is building a business or trying to hone in a skill or something that they want to offer as a service because sometimes you got to do some grunt work in order to be able to prove yourself.
And I'm in that every single day. I'm constantly testing myself as an auctioneer because I'm still building my business 100%. I have made quite the business for myself at 17, I think at least. And because I'm busy pretty much every weekend of the year, I do about 40 of these a year. The slow months, though, like holiday season, I don't have much, but that's because there's just not a lot of fundraising. But I'm still building myself every day. And I'm so glad that I get to build myself still, because you have to constantly test yourself. The moment you stop testing yourself, you're starting to get slower. You don't push as hard. You're not trying to make yourself better. So I'm in that stage where I'm on a go, 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 got to make myself better. And sometimes I don't know how to stop and smell the roses. I have a hard time with that, but I'm so glad to still be in that moment. And I hope that I never plateau out. I want to make sure that I'm constantly pushing myself. But right now I'm still pushing myself pretty hard.
Well, at 17, with the resume that you already have, I'm feeling very confident from this side of the conversation that you're not gonna slack off and that you're gonna continue to push yourself, and you're gonna achieve fantastic things. So I'm confident in that. Can remain confident in yourself too as you move forward. But like you said, don't forget to stop and smell the roses because you are 17, right? And you still have a lot of fun experiences ahead. So very confident that you will be successful, but don't forget to make time to enjoy life as well. But along those lines too of kind of moving forward and continuing to grow and look towards kind of the next thing, do you have any plans after you graduate high school besides, I'm assuming, continuing to grow your auctioneer business?
Well, once I graduate high school, I am not planning on going to college. Currently, I might go next year. I don't turn 18 until October, so
Okay.
age-wise, I'm very young for my grade, but sure doesn't feel like it when I'm at high school. But I, by age-wise, I'm very young for my grade. But currently, I'm not planning on going to college. I just want to continue to ranch and auctioneer, and I can't wait personally for school to be done where I can really, because school takes a lot of time, energy, and focus. And I can't wait to be able to take all of it and bottle it up and put it into something that I want to do with the rest of my life, auctioneering, and I want to be able to ranch for the rest of my life. So I can't wait to be able to really be able to focus on auctioneering and not have to show up halfway through the sale like I do now. Because I'll take my trailer with me to school and I park off campus. That way I can get out easy. And then I drive off and I head off to Galt or Tile or whatever it needs to be. That way I can get there as quick as I possibly can. But I can't wait until I don't have the extra homework and time that I have to put into that. Because I'm a 4.0 student. I don't slack off, you know. I have AP classes, I'm straight A's, and I've got it. But I can't wait to not have that headache.
Yeah, I'm sure. That'll be a good checkbox, a good thing to kind of close that chapter, move forward. And I think what you said in terms of being able to focus all of your energy on the things that you're passionate about, I think that's so important. And I'm excited for you that you get to kind of do that and pursue your dreams because, again, no doubt you're going to be successful in whatever you choose to do. So that is exciting. You're in the final stretch here, a few more months, right? And then you're moving on to the next chapter of things. So that's exciting and congratulations on all of that.
Thank you very much. One of my goals, though, in the next couple years, will be a little ways out, but I'd like to be the first female world champion livestock auctioneer. So I got a lot of hard work ahead of me, a lot of time and energy and focus to keep and continue putting in auctioneering. And but that is my goal. That's where I want to end up, and hopefully there's a lot more after that. But that is a huge goal of mine that I have right now.
Well, like I said, no doubt you're gonna succeed in that realm. But since you did kind of bring up, first woman auctioneer, uh, I would love to know kind of maybe some insight in terms of you are obviously, young for the trade that you're in, whether female or male. And then also you're an incredibly strong young woman as well. What has been your experience in terms of being younger in the industry and then also being a woman, whether you have had, I'm not going to say negative interactions or anything like that, but what has kind of your experience been and maybe some of the things that you didn't expect along the way?
One thing that I definitely have quite a bit is people don't expect me to be able to do my job, which I love it. I love coming in as the underdog where they don't think that I'm going to perform because I'm young or they've never seen a girl auctioneer. They just aren't expecting anything good. They're like, oh, okay, she's learning. She's just going to be all right. And then I show up there and I'm able to do my job and I'm able to do it great. So I love that part of things. Now, on the fundraiser side of it, I think it really helps me. I love being a girl. I wouldn't want anything different. I'm very thankful to be a girl. Sometimes I just made a joke today. I love being a girl. But a lot of times, a lot of times though, like in the sale yard stuff, I'm treated amazing. But I think it has nothing to do with me being a girl or being young. It's who I am inside, and they treat me really, really well. I have a lot of respect for the order buyers, and they treat me well back in return. So overall, I really have never faced too much negative, we'll say negative comments or anything like that. Just a lot of times people don't expect me to be able to do my job, but I love it when I can show up there and prove them wrong. And not necessarily, it's not necessarily about proving them wrong for me. It's just about showing that I can. Grayson Haydn-Myer is here, and I can do the auctioneering job just as well as anybody else could.
Yeah, no, I think you said it perfectly because I was thinking along those same lines of, um, kind of prove 'em wrong though, right? Like a little bit. Not but not in the sense of like, "I'm right, you're wrong," more of the sense of like, "I'm really good and, like, I should be here because I'm really good," kind of thing. So yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Sorry about that. Exactly. It's not about proving them wrong. I feel like that was a poor way of phrasing it, but it's just more about being able to show up there and say, I can do it. I work hard to be this good, and I can't wait to keep getting better. I got a lot of improvement to get better. By no means am I saying that this is the end of it for me, but I work hard to be this good, and I can do a very good job for you folks. So that's a very positive thing that I love to be able to go there and do. But I love the underdog. I love it. I love showing up there and just being like, "Yep, I can do it. I'm Grayson Haydmeyer, and I've got it."
Yes, I love that. I think that's again, I mean, I think your whole story is so inspirational. You're such a well-spoken young lady and humble in every regard that I am capturing through our conversation. But as you know, a young woman in agriculture and in the auctioneering space, as we kind of wrap up our conversation today, is there any advice that you might give other young women who are looking to get involved in agriculture or even more so even in the auctioneer space? Because